So the sessions have been interchanged. So according to schedule, this particular session was supposed to be led by Arjo and he was going to talk about JGBS and JGBU. However, there was some other, as always happens with MCI. As always happens with FCI, is called for something else. So we needed to swap, and I'm very thankful to Ratnathan and Amivan for stepping in and doing this session this time. But it does look like we have lost some significant crowd. You are keeping session by session attendance, right?
Yes.
So we're taking snapshot of each of the on recording for what session. Showing face early in the day is not enough for the whole thing. Desperate situations call for desperate measures. They are all the physical. So Lavnath and Amivan will talk about research. Obviously, almost everything that they are going to tell now is going to be new information for the new faculty members. Let us take a few minutes, if you allow, to get an introduction done here of the new people in the room, new full-timers as well as the two adjunct faculty members who are with us. And that way, because this is all slightly more unstructured, informal session, so let's use the time a little bit. So for the new people, of course, everything that they say is going to be extremely important. At the end of the day, you always know this for your own personal ambitions, career progress, as well as for your progression in the institute. Research is no substitute. Research is number one. Very clear about it. Although our challenge on a day-to-day basis is teaching. On research, we do well as an institution. Our faculty publishes very well, publishes in very good journals, gets well cited. Research is extremely important, but I don't feel we have a massive challenge there. Although we need to keep doing well, there is no room for getting slack on that. In teaching, we have a lot more harder territory to cover. That's my personal feeling. You can have a difference in opinion we can discuss. Teaching is a group activity which we need to crack individually and as a team. And once you walk into the classroom for the new people, you will know what I mean. And I don't want to scare you. We have all survived. We are fine. So will you. Nothing to be worried about. We have some excellent teachers sitting in this room here who do marvelously well. The rest of us struggle a bit in some places, but even then we do okay. Small problem for the faculty. But the end of the thing is, we as faculty, I think, or maybe I'm just projecting my personal feelings here a little bit, but whatever. I don't think we are particularly thrilled with the teaching outcome. Now, students must still be thrilled. The external world is still thrilled. Nobody is telling us that we are doing a bad job. Well, we make it. It's probably, just probably, that we ourselves are not fully satisfied with the income. Now, there's room for disagreement there, of course, but we can talk about that. But that said, research cannot be, research is certainly as important, if not more than teaching. So this session is critical for definitely the newcomers. For the old timers, change, as you know, is the only constant at JGBS. Lots of things are obviously going to change this semester onwards, just like things had changed in the previous semester and partly in the semester before that. New things are happening, new opportunities coming up, new institutional changes happening. We will take some opportunity to talk about that in this session as well as in the last session that we have today, which is the way forward session. So there will be new information for everyone. But let me cut out this long introduction and go to the introducing new members of the JGBS team.
My name is Kanchan. I have come from Mohali. Looking at me, you probably know that the number of experience I have got is more than 40 years. I took the age balance Rajesh will talk about that. I will be teaching financial accounting this semester and adjunct faculty. I'll be here 3 days a week. I'll be teaching both at law school as well as.
Hello everyone, I am Sumedha Chauhan. I have joined JGBS in the area of information systems, and I did my FPM from MTI Gurgaon, and prior to coming here I was working with Anand as a faculty.
Hello everyone, I am Paribhasha. I am an FPM from IIM Calcutta in public policy area. I am joined here as assistant professor in general management area. Prior to this, I did a short teaching stint at Institute of Management Technology, Hyderabad.
Hello, good morning everyone. I have joined the economics area here. I have completed the fellow program in management from IIM Hyderabad. Prior to coming here, I was associated with IIM Sanwar and IIM Local.
Hi, good morning everyone. I am Palka. I have joined here in finance and accounting area. I am a fellow of IIM Indore, and I worked with IFMR Chennai and IIM Local before joining. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm Sanjay. Recently, my FPM from Kashipur. I'm studying area. Prior to doing FPM, I was in industry. I was washed in some. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. My name is Deepak. I'm in the area of marketing. I did my PhD from IIT Roorkee. Prior to Jindal, I was working with Grant University. I was there for 2 years.
Hello everyone, my name is Ashwatan. I am extremely excited to be teaching the first ever course on artificial intelligence, not just at the business school, but probably at the university, if not at Sonipat. So I'm very excited. I noticed yesterday when I was meeting some of the faculty, a lot of them were either teaching marketing or from marketing backgrounds. Fortunately, I can understand you because I spent a decade working in marketing and branding in the telecom industry in Bombay. And I am very happy and excited to be starting the AI course.
Welcome all of you. It's really a pleasure for everyone at JGBS to have this wonderful group of new faculty joining us. There are also, I think, three more adjunct faculty members who are not here. Manjot Bhatia is in the operations area. We could not be present today. We will get to meet them as the semester progresses, or maybe even sooner. So, I would, without any further ado, I'll let Raghunath take over and tell you the
Okay, this mic's working? Yes, cool. Okay, good morning and welcome to the new joinees. I think I've interviewed many of you actually, some I haven't seen before, so I hope to make contact with you all in the next couple of days and weeks ahead. And welcome and hope you enjoy your stay here, both at JGBS, JGU, and also in Sonipat. To my colleagues from last term, nice to see you all again. You know, it's weird actually. I arrived from Australia yesterday morning and I went to the mess, and it was interesting, you know, just seeing familiar faces, the Sodexo workers and the odd faculty member and the odd student, you know, sort of energized me, because coming back to a desolate campus is not all that fun. So now we're just starting the term up again and gearing up for 2019. So our brief here today is to talk about research. when I saw the topic, and the topic is how to build a research-driven culture in a business school, I actually was thinking and reflecting. I saw the topic actually just before I flew from Singapore to Delhi. I was thinking on the flight in my haze. I was thinking we actually do research here at JGS pretty well. I reiterate and iterate Rajesh's comments because I sit on the JGU Publication Reward Committee. We're actually convening in 2 days' time for the July meeting. I'll talk a bit about what the purpose of that committee is for, but it's really to assess the reward structures around publications from faculty. And every month we convene, and every month I must say over the last 6 to 9 months I've been quite proud when I see amongst all the, say, 10 to 15, sometimes 20 publications across the university for that month, a sizable number have come from our school. And that's actually, I think it's something to be actually quite proud of.
And just to piggyback on what Raghunath said, most of the citations in JGU is from JGBS, most of the publications in JGU is from JGBS, and I'll go ahead on a limb and say most of the quality publications in JGU is from JGBS too.
And it's not just the numbers of publications. What's actually quite impressive is that the quality of their publications has significantly increased. And I think we should actually collectively pat ourselves on the back for that. Quite often, it's easy to, we're academics, we set high standards for ourselves, and often it's very easy to get bogged down into, I haven't been pushing out the pubs where I want to. But when you look at the numbers and you look at the quality, I think we're doing okay, right? It's not to say we should be complacent, but we're doing okay. And if we can maintain and increase that, I think we will be doing pretty well. So our brief today is to really travel through, sorry, I've just jotted down some points here, and excuse my flight-induced haze. I've jotted some points that we'll travel through today in the discussion. We're going to make this interactive, sort of dialogic. Hear a lot from you. We'll be talking as well. We'll be imparting, particularly for the new faculty members, some information, but really we want to open up the floor and try and work out how we can actually create a more enriched research culture here at the business school. So some of the things we'll travel through is we'll talk about first, for example, JGU policy around research. And we'll talk around, for example, how does a business school sit within that policy framework from JGU? What might be the synergies? What might be the tensions for business school faculty existing within a broader university? Anirban will also talk through around the importance of citations, right? Try to maximize the citation count on your publications. What are some of the strategies around doing that? Why it's important to do that, for example. We'll then move on to actually how we as individual faculty members, moving away from sort of the institutional, but also embedded within an institutional framework, how we as individual faculty members can develop, enhance, perhaps, our own research programs. And here we're going to throughout the discussion, we're going to throw it over to you guys, but I think that point will be somewhere where we actually want to hear information from you guys as well. Toward the end of the session, and I think we should be able to cover it all off within the 1 hour that we've got, we'll throw it open to the new faculty members and see what some of the ideas about taking ideas from idea generation or ideation through to print, what some of the ideas that or experiences and ideas that you have travelled across in the journey of your publications. So let's begin. So When we talk about JGU policy around research, we're really talking about, to sort of we're talking about situating the university in a global context. Let's put it within an Indian university context first, but then we're also operating within a global context. And that global context, for better or for worse, right, operates through the prism of institutionalized ranking leagues tables, right? And the major ranking leagues table that we at JGU follow here is ranking leagues table. QS ranking, the QS ranking leagues, which feeds into the Scopus. We'll talk about that in a moment. Scopus feeds into that. So, I mean, we if you want, we can actually. Do you want to open it up now for discussion around? Yeah. All right. So it's something that we feel we all as individual scholars. And also me, I will confess, in my administrative role as Vice Dean overseeing research here, I feel a great tension, right? I feel a great tension because I have to adhere to university policy that at some point, do I fully endorse that? Yes, at some level. But there are parts of that create tensions in me as an individual scholar, wanting to go perhaps this way, but the university is directing me in another way. How can we close the gap, right? I'm sure many of you feel those tensions yourselves. Would I be wrong in my assumption? No. Okay, so QS rankings is the rankings table or the rankings league that this university currently follows. We have to be aware, these are commercial organisations that build the ranking leagues table, right? My experience from Australia is that over the last 10 years, Australian universities have shifted to across two different ranking leagues paradigms. And individual scholars who get embedded within following, for example, the dictates of a particular ranking leagues table suddenly get caught short if suddenly the university decides to take a course or shift course. But currently we are working here with QS. What does QS, in terms of research, QS bases, I think it was something like 20%.
20% of the QS ranking is based on citations. And the fun part about citations is the papers or the citations that are considered by QS has to be from papers published in the last 5 years. For example, for a QS ranking in 2018, which we were a part of, papers published on or after 2013 were considered. So if you have a paper written in 2005 and you have 3,500 citations for that, good for you, fantastic, but QS doesn't care. So that is something that, well, might be an oxymoron, but that's something that QS does actually. And on top of that, yes, the citations are important, the QS is important, and they mostly, and Laknath, please correct me if I'm wrong, they base their ranking on the Scopus index.
That's right.
They are not that hung up on the quality of publications, whether the impact factor of publications, or the journal, sorry, but mostly whether or not the journal is Scopus indexed. So that is pretty much how QS looks at research, or is being looking at research as of 2019. Yes,
sir. So let's just recap. JGU's research is currently embedded within the QS ranking leagues framework. Within that, 20% of the weighting for the international university rankings comes from research, of which citations plays a large part of that, okay? So you can sort of see how the universities, it's in the university's interest to increase citations in Scopus listed publications, right? right? And that's where ultimately we feed into the broader ambition, the broader ambit of the university to increase its place in the university ranking leagues. But I said before, that creates a tension in me as an individual scholar. As an administrator, that's fine. Right? Anibal mentioned before that Scopus, it's a massive database of publications from the top tier right through to the bottom end. Right? Not quite. That's actually not quite precise. Actually, it has actually quite clear guidelines on what sorts of publications are acceptable in the database. But many of us in a business school are familiar with other ranking systems of publications, right? For example, many of us are familiar with the FT50, might be 55 now, but 50, yes? FT50, right? Which is sort of considered the sort of gold standard suite of publications. Many of us aspire to publish in there. Many of us probably won't. That's okay. I'm comfortable with that. Business schools have developed other rankings leagues tables, other journal rankings, journal ratings leagues tables to accommodate, if not the FT50, where else can we publish? And many of you are familiar with the two most common, should I say, Commonwealth-based systems, the ABDC, Australian Business Dean's Council Journal Rating List, yes? And the ABS, the Association of Business Schools in the US. And for good measure, those have their own systems of rating publications, and most of us adhere to those as well. So there's a tension between publishing Scopus listed publications, of which many of the ABS and ABDC publications fit into Scopus, fall into that, but some don't, right? And we as individual scholars, I'm talking as an individual scholar, I'll come to the institutional JGBS requirements, or should I say considerations in a moment. As individual scholars, we might want to publish in those other journals. But from a JGBS point of view, it helps. It helps if we publish or direct our attention to those publications that are both ABDC/ABS or ABS and Scopus listed as well. I mentioned earlier the publication reward policy at the university. I mentioned that I sit on the committee. We're meeting in 2 days' time. So the university incentivizes faculty to publish in particular areas and particular venues, right? And we have many of you who have been here for a while are aware of the publication reward scheme. To those who aren't, I'll just go through it quite briefly. Sorry. No, I've gone with a non-power board policies there to incentivize individual faculty members to publish in particular venues that are favourable toward the institutional requirements of JGU, i.e. publishing in Scopus listed venues. Now it's not just Scopus listed, there is a quality bar as well. And to those of you, and many of us, I'm really pleased to say, as I said, I sit on this committee, and every meeting, and I'm sure it'll be the same on Thursday, tomorrow actually, it'll be the same tomorrow when I sit in the meeting, there'll be at least 3 or 4 publications from here, from you guys. And they will be at a pretty decent level, which is really, really gratifying. So what the university does, this is for the new guys, to incentivize you to publish well. As Rajesh said, teaching is, you could argue, the cornerstone of this university. research is the second block, right? It is equally important. Not just for the university itself, not just for knowledge generation, not just for knowledge transmission, right? You could argue it's for personal development as well. But to incentivize you to publish, we have a structure, and I don't know if HR might have gone through this with you before, but I'll just reiterate it very quickly. We have a 4-tier structure here at the university, 4 categories. Category 1, I'll just read it out in brief. A research article published in any journal of a university or institution that falls within rank to 5 of the latest law, arts and humanities and social sciences ranking, published every year in the THE, Times Higher Education World University Rankings, in the year of publication, and also indexed in Scopus, or, and this includes us, a research article published in any journal within the rank A* in the latest ABDC/ABS journal list, and also indexed in Scopus, you collect a reward of 1 lakh. Sizable. Second category, a research article published in any journal within the rank A, in the latest ABDC/ABS journal list, and also indexed in Scopus. 60,000 rupees, Indian rupees. The third category, you can sort of see how the university has shifted the importance of publishing in Scopus listed venues. Because previously, what I'm about to read, the third category, was formerly the bottom category 2 years ago when I first started. A research article published in any journal indexed in Scopus, 50,000 Indian rupees. When I first started, it was 10,000 rupees. It was the last category. Now, the primacy, from the university's lens, the primacy is there of publishing Scopus listed. Therefore, they have upped the ante, incentivized you guys, us, all of us, to publish. There's also an other consideration here, which is international collaboration. We'll touch on it in a moment, but the university incentivizes us to publish with international co-authors. In the event where a Scopus indexed research article, either category 2 or 3, is co-authored with a person employed outside of India, it attracts a 70,000 Indian rupee reward. Right? So you can sort of see where the university is putting their money. Right? So I encourage you to, what I will do is probably in the next week, I'll circulate this on email, particularly for the new guys. Many of you who are here have published before, you know the structures and you know how it operates. But I'll send this out on email, on an all JGBS email, so you have it there, you have the policy there, right? But sort of when you're thinking about your research program, sort of think about not only just for yourself, where your personal staff development, research development is going, sort of think, okay, how can we sort of move this institution called JGBS, JGU along as well? And as you can see, the university is directly incentivizing us to do that. So, I spoke about JGU. JGBS, we have a peculiar interpretation of that. When I say peculiar, I don't mean bad, I just mean, another interpretation of that. So as part of the annual performance review here at the university, we have interpreted that's JGBS, has interpreted the university's policy and come up with how can we help, right? How can we help ourselves, publishing well, but also help the university, right? And the business school. And to that end, again, this is no surprise to those who've been here before, but the university has a policy, right, that's taken from the personal performance development process of 2 Scopus listed publications per year. Right? So if you had to say, what's our target? what's our publication target per year? Would be 2 Scopus listed publications per year.
That just has to be Scopus listed, no ABDC, no ABS, no ACR, no impact factor, just Scopus listed, right?
Correct. However, as I've said before, think about think about how you can add value to your own brand, your own self, your own research.
About that tension that I was talking about.
By publishing in, most of us feel those tensions between the 2 publication target, right, and then pushing out in a higher ranked venue as well. Lastly, in terms of JGU policy, every quarter you will get an email, you will receive an email, we all do, from the registrar. Actually, it's shifted now. It's the special office. And the office sends out an email about grant research funding. Comes out, what are we now? July. So it'll probably come out in September, probably in early to mid-August for, I think, a September submission date. It's every quarter. And again, the university has a research grants policy, right, to enable you to get your legs up with regard to funding, right? And it's quite healthy. It's quite healthy. There's 3 categories of research grant funding, right? The funding deadlines occur every quarter, right? March, June, September, December. And the 3 categories are for a duration of 6 months, which attracts a maximum of, sorry, I can't read the Indian version of INR, 5 lakhs. There's a medium-term research grant, which is for 18 months, and that attracts 10 lakhs. And for long-term research grants, which are considered up to 24 months, right, the university is willing to fund projects to the tune of 20 lakhs. Very sizable. So think about, I do urge you to submit, particularly the new guys, but for all of us, I mean, I will, when the email comes around from the Office of Research Funding, I will send out a reminder, and I will encourage you to submit a grant proposal. I have developed, in line with the research committee here, a proposal template that fits in line with the university's template. Adhere to that and send it through to us, ideally a week before. That's the JGBS research committee. A week before the deadline, the official deadline. And what we do then, the committee, is give you some additional feedback and return it to you with about 3 or 4 days left, sometimes 1 or 2 days left, but usually 3 or 4 days left, so you can refine your proposal and submit it for best consideration. Okay? So that's the final plank I want to bring up. This term, Rajesh mentioned that there's a new initiative. This term we have a new initiative called a Business School Assistantship to help out with research. I'll bring Rajesh up now to talk a bit more about that before we then move into talking about how we as faculty members can best develop a research program that helps organise a broader research culture in the school. So I'll bring Rajesh up to talk about the school assistantships.
So I'll talk a little bit about this research assistantship program that is actually just assistantship. Research is your choice. But I'll talk somewhat at length about it. It's a new program that we are starting this semester. And many of you have already been briefed about this tentatively as the thought progressed in faculty meetings before. But now we are pretty much signed off on it, and I'm going to spend some time detailing what it means, and also probably getting a bit into what challenges it brings with it and what opportunities it also provides. So that you can think a little bit the next 7 days before the semester starts. But before talking about it, I would like to add two things to what Laknath said, and particularly the last part that Laknath was talking about, the research funding, the university level research funding. So I would join Laknath in really encouraging you to submit. It's a rather strange thing that we have here. I sit on that committee. It's composed of all the deans. So we meet, I think, twice a semester, probably, or something like that. Whenever such a number of 4 times a year, so twice a semester. Usually, but there are sometimes we meet more often also. Sometimes the one day is not enough to take care of all the proposals, so we have a continuation meeting and all that. So, what is interesting here, and Laknath already flagged this, JGBS produces by far, by a significant margin, the maximum scholarly output in the university as a school. And JGBS is a much smaller entity than the law school. Obviously, they are about quarter in size, probably not less. Yeah. So it's a little bit of an oddity there, and but we, as a school, we produce the largest amount of scholarly research and journal research, peer-reviewed research. And yet, when you look at the research funding proposals, we don't put in that many proposals. I mean, it's a strange problem to have. It's much better than having the other way. You put in lots of proposals that don't publish anything. That's the far worse situation. This is not a problem. This is just a feature that I'm pointing out. We are actually publishing far more than everyone else, it seems, and yet we are not asking for the big funding. That it's a less of a puzzle if you think through it for certain reasons. Because the business publication works in a particular way. Our journals look at secondary data analysis in a particular way that does not require the kind of funding that we are talking about here and all of that. So there are obviously sensible reasons for that. Also, that 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakh numbers that Laknath mentioned, those projects do come, and very interesting research ideas you can get to hear about when you consider the proposals are coming from liberal arts, proposals are coming from law school, proposals are coming once in a blue moon from business school, proposals are coming from art and architecture, and fascinating questions, absolutely fascinating questions. Policy in a big way, JGB, right? A lot of, and not just JGB, people, and there is no school specific thing. A business school faculty member can very well do a policy proposal. There's nobody saying that you're in the school, therefore you have the corporate subject or anything like that. So research can be anywhere you want to do. We are very strong on interdisciplinarity. We certainly do not believe in silos. Right? You can be in an area, you can be in a school, but the intellectual arena is completely boundaryless. You follow what you want to follow. And in the business school, we also have an advantage. There almost nothing under the sun is not relevant to business. We are hard pressed to find something and say, no, this is not connected to business. Business is going to do everything. So that means there is no justification business out there. Whatever you want to study, you can study, and there will be a link to business. But the point that I wanted to really spend a few minutes on is that 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 20 lakh sounds great and grand, but what you can actually include in that budget comes with a lot of conditions. And as you prepare for that budget, it's important to pay attention to that. The reason why I'm saying this is, when we sit on that committee, I can tell you, without any definition, but just as a broad impression, and I'm sure it's an underestimate. 2/3 of the cases we say, yeah, great idea, you should definitely pursue it, we all encourage it, but here is your 18 lakh budget, in which item 5, 3 and 7, which adds up to 16 lakh out of your 18 lakh requirement, which is outside the ambit of this committee. cannot permit this. So for instance, so it's good to keep in mind what can be built in that project. Not everything can be built. So for example, you want an array. Right? You cannot employ an outside university person in that budget. You cannot say, well, I want an array for this project and I want to pay him 25,000 a month for 6 months. If you ask me, that's perfectly reasonable. Right? 25,000 a month for a reasonable array is absolutely the market price. And you pay less than that, you're not going to get what the person that you want or who's good for your job. I don't have any problems with that. But the research rules will not allow it. They have a fixed slab for array work of 10,000 rupees a month payable to JGU students. Now, you know, I have always been very poor in looking at rules, so don't take what I'm saying already, go and check. But I'm just flagging what sticks in my mind. I could be factually wrong with these. But to the best of my information and my impression, is you can only have an RA who's a JGU student pay that person 10,000 a month.
7,000.
7 has just been revised to 10 recently. No, 10 हो गया है. Is it revised to 8?
Last year it was 7.
7 is what it used to be. But I think one last meeting we said, hey, 7 is not going anywhere. Might either won't drive me from Delhi to here for 7,000. What are you talking about? This thing just doesn't work. So we said, okay, let's be generous. How generous can we be? 10. Whatever. That will still not drive me from Delhi to here for that money. But whatever it is, that's the rule. So you cannot actually employ a artifact. And then you say, well, this particular research project is about gambling behavior. And I need to spend 6 months in Las Vegas to study it. Unfortunately, there's no more. Yeah, I know. It's a bomber. So I was almost like, this is a project, give me 20 lakhs, I can stay for 6 months in Las Vegas. And I'll come back with the paper. Not going to happen. Your travel comes out of a different pool of funds, which is the staff development funding, right? SDF. So you cannot put that travel into it. Now, so we might get the idea of spending 6 months in Las Vegas writing that paper on gambling, not on the research work. You can certainly go and spend money there and actually gamble it out also to get experiential learning into the project. We are more going to fund out of this one. So basically, pay attention to what heads of expenditure can actually be built, and a lot can be built. It is possible to create a 20 lakh research proposal with allowable heads of expenditure. I'm just flagging things that people usually put in there only to be told, sorry, this we cannot do. Because rules don't allow us. So that pot of money is very much there, by all means go grab it. But be careful about how to grab it. The smart way of creating the proposal increases your chances of getting it significantly. So spend some time thinking about how to craft that proposal according to the rules of what the committee allows, and there is documentation available telling you what is legit and what is not legit as expenses. So that's the one thing that I want to tell you. And also the second related thing is this SDF. University encourages, facilitates travel and other expenses that you may need to bear under two heads. One is the staff development staff development fund. That's the full form of SDF. So whenever you are attending conferences, giving presentations, or even going to some workshop that leads to your development, it's staff development, right? So it's all you can bill it to the SDF. I think as you signed in, you were given your annual SDF limit amounts, and that varies according to rank. So up to that you can travel. In fact, that limit that is given at times is crossed. So supposing you make a great conference is coming in, you want your paper accepted, and you want to travel and you're crossing the limit. You can put in a special application which may go right up to the VC for approval beyond that limit. And experience says that it is usually not turned down. So even that limit can at times be crossed. Don't plan on crossing it. But just in case it happens, university is very generous about supporting travel. That said, there is a little bit of a caveat here also. Do not plan to travel in any manner that affects your teaching. Don't skip classes because of travel. So you've got 4 months in a year, no questions asked. Those months are June and July and December and January. 4 months in a year, practically. December, maybe first week of December something is going on, but they suddenly shut down almost. June also, maybe some recent exams or some nonsense is happening on campus around that time. But basically, for that matter, not even just the 4 months. You can add 15 days of May and 15 days of November probably. No questions asked. Right? So you've got 4 to 5 months to go wherever you want, whatever conference you want to, use it. Just keep the teaching times free. Don't plan on travel. So one thing that we are now doing is, I've been telling this a bit softly over the last semester, but this time we are going to, this is a very well documented. I will be asking SDC. So your SDF form that you bring in gets signed by the Staff Development Committee. The two of them. So I am asking them to hold back on approving any SDF request that affects class. Right. Class rescheduling will not happen. Right. So I jokingly tell people, but only half jokingly, if you are not in class, you are in a hospital bed. Right? It may sound very crude and rude, but that's the way it is. Right? You are not in Las Vegas researching gambling. You are not anywhere else researching anything else. You are just too sick to stand up and talk in class. Right? That's the only situation in which you are not in class at that point in hour when APCI schedule says you should be. Right? That's how we look at teaching, that's how we will do it. So, by all means, go to every conference that you want, we will fund it outside classroom hours. Class cannot be touched. So that's the other thing that you need to keep in mind. No SDF proposal that touches classroom will be approved by SDC learners.
But can I just comment on something? Isn't this in conflict with JGBS policy?
I don't think so.
It is.
I don't think so.
I tell you why.
Yeah.
Because JGBS policy says that people can go out for conferences within a semester, but for not more than 4 or 5 days. And if it's a very good conference, then we do allow that. And this is the JGBS policy. So I'm just wondering.
Policies are enablers. Policies are not dictators. So a policy may enable you, that does not give you a right to exercise it. So even if it is in contravention to your reading of that particular rule, right? That is why if the SDF application was automatically pre-approved as long as the policy was followed, there was no need for anybody signing on it. It would have gone through, you could have just entered it automatically and booked your ticket and gone off. The fact that it requires interpretation by some people making a call on it means that there are certain factors to be looked into it. Of course, keeping in mind the policy. I don't think what we are doing here is in contravention to the policy, but we can discuss this. So anyway, so all your travels, plan it for the 5 months in a year. Trust me, lots of good conferences get held during those times. Both during December, January and during June, July. Right? The whole world is open to you. You have funding, go international, travel wherever you want, wherever your heart and research takes. Just don't touch your classroom days. Okay, now let me new point about the assistantships. So one thing that we are doing this semester, and it will happen every semester, we're starting this semester, is that in MBA third year, IBM third year, I'm sorry, MBA first year, BBA third year, and IBM third year, we are introducing assistantship. Now, what does this assistantship mean? Assistantship means that a BBA third year student, an IBM third year student, and an MBA first year student gets assigned to a faculty member and works with the faculty member. Whatever works means, I will come in a minute. So the faculty member therefore assigns work to the student. What work are you going to assign? Well, mostly research related. That is the whole idea. Could be some teaching related. However, there are boundaries there. You can ask your graduates, your student to grade papers. There are confidentiality boundaries which need to be respected. But the student works with the faculty member, gets this is a credit JGBS thing, so he gets credit for this work based on faculty evaluation of the work that they have done over the semester. Now, what this means is there are about 250 students in these three batches. 75 for MBA, about 150 for BBA third year, and about 45, 50 for IBM third year. So about 250 odd students. And we are about 60 strong. So take 250 divided by 60, you are going to get 4 to 5 students per faculty member. Executive office is going to do the allotment in a balanced manner. So every one of us will be getting 1 or 2 BBA students, 1 IBM student, 1 MBA student. Right? And maybe 50% if need be. So within that thing, executive office will create a chart, create a list, and give it to us, who is assigned to whom. So what happens with this? This gives you opportunities. It also gives you in-situ responsibilities. So on the opportunity side, you now have 4 to 5 students, at least one grad student, MBA level, and 3 or 4 undergrads, could be 2 grad, 3 undergrad, whatever. 4 to 5 students at your disposal, and you can use them for any research work that you deem can be given. Now, when I say that, I also need to correct it for everybody. If your research involves human subjects, then you need certain permissions to conduct research in the first place, and that will come with caveats about who can deal with human subjects. You cannot let your assistant go and do some conversation with somebody that will mess up the victim of your research, right? You cannot do that. So that those obvious caveats kept in mind, you have 5 students whom you can deploy, whether to do data gathering, whether to do background research, literature survey, whether to craft first drafts of certain things. Take caution in this first draft business. You should not end up publishing something where some kid someday can say, oh, that text is mine. Then you are in the soup. Right? Don't do that. So you have to be careful on what gets finally published should be your creation, not somebody else's. Copyright works on words. Copyright does not work on ideas. So be careful. The words are owned by you. So you will have these 5 people whom you can use used for lots of purposes. You can use them for teaching. But how you use them for teaching also needs some thought. You can ask your students to do some hunting of material to come up with certain exercises that you may do in class. You may ask them to analyze. You may ask them to prepare slides for you for that matter. That's absolutely fine. You just have to be super cautious about grading, because that is sensitive territory. You cannot have students being graded by the students directly. Now, grading also means exam grading as opposed to project reports, assignment stuff. It's probably safe to say keep the undergrad students completely away from grading of any manner altogether. With grad students, maybe you can see, depending upon the maturity of the student, not all MBA students are going to be the same. So these 5 people that will be at your disposal, I'm almost already anticipating people coming and saying, my 5 guys are completely useless, that sort of 5 guys are brilliant. What do you have? We cannot help that. We will give you 5 people, not distributed with any truly randomly distributed. So after that, what happens. And I cannot help beyond that. But executive office will do that. Now that's the opportunity part of it. The responsibility part of this is that you will also have to monitor their performance, which means you have to give them monitorable tasks. But if you tell them, yeah, go study, then you cannot monitor, study on it. So you have to give them certain tasks on the basis of which you can, because ultimately this is graded. Grades are serious. Right? So you are not liking the person or liking the person cannot be the only foundation of the grade that that person gets. So that is where we will obviously slowly turn to Lagnath for help. Because Lagnath is the master of rubrics, and we will turn to Lagnath to design rubrics for evaluating. And understand, this is not an easy and automatic or obvious task. Right? Setting, because your needs are going to be very different from person to person. The kind of research that you want may differ from semester to semester. The nature of activity is very different. So to come up with rubrics that would be universally applicable across a vast range of tasks that faculty can give to students is a research project in itself. But we need to do that systematically so that tomorrow somebody cannot come and say, oh, there is no basis to this grade that you are given. And trust me, a student who gets a bad grade will make that argument. Right? And so, after all, we are in a law school heavy environment. Think like a lawyer. Figure out what pitfalls can trap you. Because whenever we try something new, pitfalls do appear. We cannot take the safe road to success. There is none. So, as we innovate, certain risks are inescapable. But how do we manage those risks? How do we anticipate where we can be faulted and how do we block those? Determines how many cases of problem that we get towards the end. So think about that, and Lagnath and some others with the ADs, we will come and we will help you towards that, but we will create a rubric. But you know, the rubric is something, this is a description of certain things in spite of our best efforts. How you apply the rubric and how you evaluate your 5 students on the basis of that will depend on your ability to apply the rubric. So your thoughts and your sincerity in this exercise is absolutely a must. Now, so that's all that I want to say about this thing. Unsure questions? Yeah.
Is there a standard parameter for all the graduate assistants? So like a rubric can be on which the parameters that we are evaluating them would be common for all the faculties, or are we are creating our own parameters?
No, the rubric I think would be common for everyone. The rubric we supply. Now, if you want to refine it within your context and you do it, you have the freedom to do it. I think the rubric that we would come up with will be a very broad level thing, right? Now, within that, we will give the faculty flexibility to, you may be using them more for research, somebody else may be using them more for class preparation. We are not going to come and say, oh, it has to be 30% class preparation, it has to be 30% research. No, I will give you that.
So can we have a competency center?
Competency center will be.
Because
Why don't we discuss this with Lavana and help him come up with it? Absolutely, and you know, we are in virgin territory here. We create whatever we want. But the principles to keep in mind is a student who is your assistant needs to know very clearly on what parameter he or she is going to be evaluated. That's one. Number two, in those parameters, what constitutes excellent output, what constitutes non-acceptable output, what constitutes mediocre, should have a sense of that. Once you have done that, we are fine. And now you want to put in research full time, all 5 people in research, your choice. You want to put them in course preparation, your choice. Do that by all means. But even admin work can be given, because there's learning in that too. However, if you're giving admin work, you have to be super cautious about confidentiality. No confidential data about students or anything else in the university should be accessible to somebody who's not entitled to see that data. So that can become a problem if you get into that thing. So that has to be very careful. So we will do this and we will see how it goes. Right? This is obviously a way to solve 2 or 3 very real and practical problems. Number one is create credits without teaching. But I think that's not number one, that's number two. Number one, at least in my view, is to have RSMTs, which in this system we do not have. We need RSMTs if you are doing both teaching and research properly. We need RSMTs. So this is a way to provide faculty members with 5 assistants. I am not even going to call them RAs or TAs. That's for you to decide how you deploy it. So we will just say student assistants. Right? It's called assistantship. It is not research assistantship, it's not teaching assistantship. You have the freedom. But freedom doesn't mean that guy goes and gets coffee for you, obviously. So that is only academic work. So it's all of that. Those guidelines we already have. Right? The old, you know what we went through, and the scholarship committee went through that last time. Shubhomai created most of it, and Ivan and Shubhomai and Nivedita, they went through it. So it has been an evolving exercise since last semester. This time we are formalizing it and taking the next step, and that what was being run through the scholarship committee, not very effectively, because not most students who have scholarships and what are going to do to me if I don't, right, nothing. Right. So now we bring in the grade component to hold them more responsible. We'll see how it works. It's a new innovation. I hope it will help. It will bring some risks with it. You will have to manage those risks and then see how it goes. But I need your help, and I need everyone, particularly the youngsters, to understand the philosophy behind this and use those assistants responsibly and profitably in what we do. Mostly research, I would say. Research is the cleanest area where you can do it. Right? And slide preparation and other course material preparation also fine. But beyond that, wherever there is some touchy area about data and about information, grading, the problem. Don't want to get them there. So keep them away from that, play safe, and then let's slowly, as the system gets stabilized in the environment, then there will be already a cultural understanding of what is right and what is wrong. But in the initial phases, we will be a bit more cautious. All right. Thank you, Dr. Chakravarti. And one last thing that I want to iterate on this one is that I think it would be helpful to have a performance evaluation sheet for the graduate assistants, the student assistants, which Shubham or made. It can be on a weekly basis, it can be on a weekly basis. It also needs, the faculty needs to evaluate the student assistants so that both the faculty and his or her assistant are on the same page. So that no ambiguity, no confusion happens at the end of the semester. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not making it learning to have rubrics and then you have evaluation. So, I mean,
No, the evaluation will follow the rubrics.
Yeah.
See, the problem is you are actually giving grades without taking exams, without taking.
It's like a credit substitution, so we have to be a little strict, right?
It's
not a 6 month picnic.
Right? Some kind of objective mechanisms to grade those assistants. But I mean, it should be simple. I mean, it should not become a task in itself.
I agree. So we will try to make it as simple as possible, but at least the initial semester
There
will
has to
see
be
a
a
little bit of a
exactly.
bureaucratic headache will come with it. Right? Now it can be simplified. The form will be simple. The only thing that has to happen is what we're trying to avoid here is that at the end of the semester a student gets told, oh, you did very poorly, you are getting, I'm giving you a D in this course. That should not, the student may deserve a D and may get a D, that's fine. But it should not be an unexpected bad news to that person. Like, there are two ways to deal with it. One, you give everybody an A at the end of the semester and let them go. The student is happy, you are happy. The other side of the coin is what he said. You have to be a little tough, especially if you are giving the student a CRT.
So you ask the student to do a job and he doesn't show up at all.
Yeah, what do you do?
I think many of us have had that experience last
Oh,
time.
yeah. I can speak for myself. And Shoma is pointing at me.
Perhaps,
Okay, there's another one.
No, sorry,
Yes, thank you.
So I need to know, I would like to know from Dr. what kind of this thing he has in his mind, so we can develop something which is more, which has more wider applicability, a kind of competencies generally we have, so you basically focus on competencies of people, which everybody can be assessed on, irrespective of the task given, whether teaching related or research related.
So there are a number of different types of rubrics, and we'll sit down with the program directors to work out, the particular types of tasks, whether it's research related tasks or teaching related tasks, whatever, and then map quite broadly the various criterion upon which perhaps a student might be assessed, the criterion, with perhaps a weighting, and then the performance levels, credit, distinction,
Okay, so
outstanding,
you would have a
whatever.
task inventory
Now,
first, and then you would from task inventory pick up those
performance levels.
Performance levels.
That's right. Performance levels.
Yeah.
That's a start. That's a
engage very much because HR people and your areas are best suited to be. It's not like you already know how to develop a group. I am turning to Raghunath because he uses rubrics so well in other contexts. And we are asking him to help us out with developing this. But you would be hugely benefited if you and other HR people who are using, who know how to assess performance, and that's a science in itself. And I'm sure many of the others are not aware of that. So if you discuss with Raghunath, I think Raghunath will also benefit.
perfect.
Both the rubrics as well as the evaluation matrix.
All of us use rubrics to, evaluate our assignments.
Some more consciously than others.
Yes, it's not that something so new or something we don't know.
I definitely agree with all of you.
Yeah. So, no, that's true, but we need to make it more and more explicit. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So we need to articulate, because this is where the problem is. In a normal classroom setting, you go and tell the student that there will be a test. If you score 10, you are getting this grade. If you score 5, you are getting this one. If you score 3, you are getting this. Clear. Understood, no debate. The students don't come out and say this is very subjective. I am being victimized for some reason or whatever. Here you say you are my assistant, and I have 3 assistants. I am giving this person an A, I am giving you a C. You will turn back and say, I did my job. Now you have to have your defense ready then. It's that you have to have the facts and evaluation sheet to say, alright, the evaluation sheet may have a number of times you have met.
That eventually will say the time, number of times you have delivered what you have delivered on time. Things that are easily identifiable, on which you can apply on that. Your email came in at that particular time. I have asked you to submit this then, and your submission is 10 minutes late. Nobody can argue with that. Your submission is of poor quality. Everybody can argue with that. That's what I mean by think like a lawyer. If you are going to give somebody an A, or rather, if you have the capability of giving somebody an A and somebody a C, without having exams, without having projects, then there has to be deliverables on which your ability to grade them can be defended. So create the paper trail to be there. That's where the rubrics and the evaluation sheets become important. There are, I don't know, more than 250 or 150 partnerships with universities all over the world. JGBS itself has memoranda of understanding done with close to 50 universities around the world. Now, invariably, we think of these as student exchange arrangements. Our students go there, take a semester, get credit for it, come back. Once in a while, a student from that university also comes and takes courses, that is there. But every time I go to IAGI, I'm having a conversation with president, dean, vice president, research, whatever, from some university. In 80% of the cases, I haven't heard of the name of the university before I walk into the room. So to make things more concrete, day before yesterday, I think, I had a meeting with, if anybody has heard of the name, Gelisim University, Turkey. How many of you have heard of this university? Nobody. Now this Gelisim University, Turkey. You may think of, I have not heard of it. How many Turkish universities do you know of? Koç, you know of Istanbul, and maybe that's about it, right? And so Turkey is not anyway the top of our mind, but in top of that, Gelisim, we have never heard of. Some are very good, and Gelisim I have never heard of. Now I go there, and the first thing we talk about is, how can we collaborate and something, and this happens every time. These meetings. The first is, let's collaborate on research. Invariably, you look at all those 40 MOUs that we have, 50 MOUs that we have, everybody talks about collaborative research. And collaborative research also has this whole spin. So now, Gelisim University, Turkey, that nobody has heard of, has a very curious advantage. Being Turkey, it is part of EU. Therefore, it has access to tons and tons of Euro funds that are available to EU area research activities, right? So, I don't know whether it is actually into EU or one of those border states connected to EU, but they have access to those funds. Funding is a different level. Now, they are already showing me videos of how they have invented a flying car, right? I mean, it's like James Bond one step ahead, right? And the car actually lifts off and flies on this thing, then it drives on the road. It doesn't have wings, it's like just as large as a normal car. In fact, it's as small as a nano, and it flies, right? I said, give me one in Delhi, in Gurgaon in particular. I need it more than any Turkish has ever needed it. But anyway, so things are happening there. Right? Now they are, all that they want to do is research collaboration. What we were talking about, they are dying to have joint research with us and them, not us in particular, some Indian this thing, and we are a research shop. Right? So when you think about this international collaboration, we are not even aware of what opportunities lay there and how much funding is available for what kind of work in what places. So you tell me about the research collaboration and we think Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Chicago, Cornell, that's it. That's all that we think. Right? And the whole world is chasing those collaborations. There's a much bigger world outside.
Think creative. We already have arrangements with them, which we are not even aware of. We only think of these partners as student exchange business. Research is a part of every single one of those MOUs. You just need to step in and take that first step to open that way. There are people out there. There are people in Russia. There are people in Turkey. There are people in Malaysia. There are people in Singapore who would give an arm and a leg to have an international collaboration as much as we would. They are being incentivized on that. So, I'm sure all of us understand this game. Right? As children, you are taught that soldiers die for the country and scholars work for the truth, for finding the truth. As you grow up in life, you still don't know why soldiers die for the country, or what they die for. But how much scholars sweat for finding the truth is a questionable business. We all react to incentives. And research directors and research funders incentivize us. There's nothing wrong, nothing shameful about it. Incentives are there. Smart way of building your research record, research footprint is to know those out of the beaten track opportunities. And the world is teeming with them, waiting to be discovered. The only problem is we are completely blindsided into focusing those 10 top branded American universities and Oxford and Cambridge that we know of. Think outside the idea, right? A lot of opportunities out there. Yeah.
Something. So myself and Professor Sabirjaki Das Gupta, we both started writing mails to all the partners. So to have research collaborations and all. Now more than 10 parties are responded positively and they are going to do some combined research.
So yeah, use Raju and the exchange group, Deepika and Swati, that group within JGBS, and of course IAGI. They are waiting to make this happen. Every time if JGBS writes a paper with Elysim, whatever, anywhere, right? And those places are very good researchers. Trust me. I may not have heard of Elysim. That doesn't mean Elysim is any. I'm sure they have also not heard of Jill till they met us. So it is mutual. But the point is that they are keen on collaboration. They have top level academics doing work there, and it's a great opportunity. They will happily fund you for a stay there. Go spend time there when you are not teaching. Go spend time there and come back. Bring your host, your co-author from there to spend time with you here. Absolutely encourage. It will be fun there. They are not there. They pay their money to come and stay here. We will support them. The local hospitality will take care. Think creatively about how you can build these partnerships. They can go a long way in producing research, in disseminating research, in getting the research published in the proper way and getting the research come to attention of a bigger audience. Nothing else to add from my side?
Just one last thing to add on to what both Rajesh and Anirban said. When we're talking about developing a research culture, I want you to think about big picture things, big picture research questions. In Australia, it's not an Australian phrase, it's global. In Australia, the federal government has decided upon, I think, 7 what they call wicked problems. You've probably heard of that phrase, wicked problems. And the Australian government, it's not just the Australian government, the British government does the same thing, the New Zealand government does the same thing, and Canada does it as well. They fund universities and other research institutions that largely concentrate on those 7 problems. So it's no surprise from my country, Australia, just about all research-intensive universities have suddenly shifted their research programs. You jump on Melbourne University, Sydney University, UNSW, Monash, and so on. Even Macquarie, La Trobe, and all of them focus now on their own interpretations of those 7 wicked problems. Those wicked problems are big, they're multi-causal, interdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, socially complex problems, things like in Australia, for example, climate change, Indigenous Australian issues. I mean, India has its own variants of these. Land degradation, it might be water, for example. It could be social cohesion. These are big picture problems that enable us all to join in on a research project no matter where we come from, what sort of disciplinary location we come from. Okay, so think about that. That's something I think is really important because it actually enables us to then tap into the broader pools of research money that are available at various international universities. I can tell you Australian universities, I've just spent 6.5 weeks in Melbourne, Sydney and Brisbane. Australian universities are very, very, very keen to collaborate with universities like us. And myself, Deepika, Swati and Raju are working on those collaborations. It's not just Australian. I mean, of course, I would love you as an Aussie to take part in that story. But the broader point I'm making is, if you're thinking about your research, tap into those bigger picture problems. What's been popularized as wicked problems. They tap into bigger pools of money, right? Internationally, institutionally as well. Okay, I'll leave it there. Thank you very much. I know it's lunchtime and no doubt we'll have an interesting discussion at lunch about the various issues we've thrown up here in the last hour and a half. And we'll come back and talk about, I don't know what we're talking about. JGBS and JGBS.
One thought, like now when it's not like the plan is at lunch.